There are two types of dealerships that are actually going to succeed moving forward. Many of them are going to find themselves in a very, very sticky situation soon. We're talking bankruptcy, not to mention outsourcing production to Mexico for the Toyota Tacoma and then upcharging it 20 to 25%. Well, that's not sitting well with people. And a prime example of Toyota totally castrating a valuable nameplate would be with the new Land Cruiser here. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the best type of vehicle is a paid off vehicle. Why does Ford do that? Why does Stellantis do that? They do it because the profit margin on these is much higher, as you'd imagine, compared to a base model example like an XL or XLT. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board and shift gears a lot if they're going to be successful selling within the US market, because they've really gone all in on their green credits and chasing carbon credits and getting government subsidies and handouts. So many Toyota Tundras just collecting dust on dealership lots because nobody wants them. They're discounting them $10,000 to $12,000 for the higher trims, and people are still not buying them. Month to month, every single one of these Tacomas behind me is costing this dealership a ton of money. And if you're the type to put preferred pronouns in your signature block at work, you may like this too. Check this out, this EV Silverado. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So vehicle dealerships across the US right now are struggling. They're struggling to move their inventory and actually make sales. That's for a number of reasons. We'll talk through many of them in today's video, but I really want to highlight the fact that GM, General Motors, is actually doing pretty well. I want to really describe why that is comparatively to Ford and Nissan and Toyota in particular. This is kind of uncharted territory for Toyota. Toyota has generally done a really good job at selling their inventory and never having to bump into the issue where dealerships are actually turning away their allocations. They're no longer accepting vehicles for delivery. And that is especially the case for what you see behind me here, the brand new 2022 and up Toyota Tundra. Dealerships cannot sell them. They're wildly overpriced. They have an engine recall on the 2022 and 2023 models anyway that's affecting the reputation of this pickup truck. The Toyota Tacoma over here, well, same goes for that. A ton of quality control issues out of that, failing transmissions, not as bad as perhaps the main crankshaft bearing recall for the Tundra here, but still, the black eye is still the same. Not to mention outsourcing production to Mexico for the Toyota Tacoma and then upcharging it 20 to 25%. Well, that's not sitting well with people. In today's video, I really want to highlight a lot of new stats, facts, and figures that I think you will find alarming, so stick with me. It's kind of crazy to think about it, but many Toyota Tundras have actually been sitting on dealership lots for 350 to 400 days right now. That's insane, and that is uncharted territory for Toyota in particular. But when you consider the fact that there is that main crankshaft safety recall out there for 2022 and 23 models, people are no longer buying a Toyota Tundra with great peace of mind. They just can't. You know, the smaller displacement 3.5 twin turbo hybridized platform for the higher trims does not offer that same level of peace of mind that the 5.7 liter V8, the naturally aspirated V8, offered people with the previous generation Tundra. Same goes for the Tacoma, right? The Tacoma now boasts a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder platform, a little turbocharged 4-banger underneath the hood as standard. There's no option for a naturally aspirated V6 like we saw from the 3rd generation Toyota Tacoma before it. So this site right here, I've shown it many, many times, but we just see so many Toyota Tundras just collecting dust on dealership lots because nobody wants them. They're discounting them $10,000 to $12,000 for the higher trims, and people are still not buying them. This right here, just over $64,000 for this limited Crew Max. This one does not have the hybridized iForce Max in it either. So not even quote unquote the best engine, we're still looking at that price. Kind of crazy. And you remember the days where you could buy an SR5 trim Toyota Tundra or Tacoma for a very, very affordable price tag, or very realistic price tag, but not anymore. We're looking at over $57,000 for this particular example. This does have the 6.5-foot bed, but really, when you get on the inside, it is extremely lackluster and a very boring vehicle to drive. And we see dealerships turning away allocations right now because of flooring cost. Every single one of these vehicles that you see behind me here has a flooring cost associated with it. Kind of like a credit card with an interest rate. Every single month, the dealership pays a small amount, but it continuously compounds and grows every single month. Month to month, every single one of these Tacomas behind me is costing this dealership a ton of money. To be frank, there are two types of dealerships that are actually going to succeed moving forward. Many of them are going to find themselves in a very, very sticky situation soon. We're talking bankruptcy, and I mean that. We are going to see it if things continue the way they are right now. The two dealerships that are going to succeed are, one, the type that is willing to cut their losses soonest, right? They're willing to cut their losses and sell for a loss and actually move the inventory, they'll find themselves staying afloat. They won't like it for the short term, but the long term, they'll be able to stay in business. The second type of dealership that we are seeing succeed right now are the dealerships that did not take advantage of people during the pandemic. The dealerships that were not charging you a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 addendum or markup over sticker price. Those people, those dealerships who remained true to form and didn't just get greedy and take advantage of their loyal customers, those are the dealerships that are still receiving business from people. The dealerships that took advantage of people and charged those markups, well, those customers are no longer returning to those dealerships now when they need them more than ever. Hate to say it, but karma's a bitch. So what is it that we need to see from dealerships across the US? We need to see them dropping the prices of all Toyota trims $10,000 to $15,000. We see many dealerships quick to drop it $5,000 to $8,000 below MSRP right now, but that, I would argue, is still insufficient. These are easily 25–30% overpriced for what you actually get with these new four-banger Tacomas here, and I confidently stand behind that, especially given the fact that Toyota hella cheaped out and they outsourced it to Mexico, where they pay employees $2.70 per hour compared to what they paid people in Texas at $17 an hour about. So they cheaped out, cut labor costs over 80%, and they still hiked up the price 25–30% more than what it really is worth. So dealerships need to be dropping these prices 10 to 15 grand at this point if they're actually going to move this inventory successfully, take a loss, go below invoice $4,000 to $5,000, take the loss. Take the loss and actually gain some loyal customers at this point. So this SR5 Toyota Tacoma here is the most affordable Tacoma here, and I just showed you the price tag of over $42,000. Many of these examples here, the TRD Sports and the TRD Off-Roads, are coming at a $50,000 to $55,000 price tag, which is absolutely insane to think about. And a prime example of Toyota totally castrating a valuable nameplate would be with the new Land Cruiser here. What once had a 5.7 liter V8 underneath the hood that inspired a ton of confidence now just has a 2.4 liter turbocharged platform that, again, doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence and has a battery pack strapped to the back of it that takes much of the cargo space. Toyota in particular has seen a 21 to 22% drop in sales over the last 2 months, and that is huge for Toyota because generally they see a 5% deviation yield, right? So up 5%, down 5% kind of fluctuates, and that's pretty common for them. So them seeing that kind of drop is huge, and they just don't know how to respond to it. They're dropping prices, like I mentioned, on the Tacoma there, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 off of the MSRP is what you can get or expect to get up to, but I would still wager we need to see more. The Tundra, $10,000 to $12,000 off the higher graded trim levels, right? But that is not sufficient. We need to see more from them. They don't know how to respond to this because they've never really been in this territory before. And it is abundantly clear that Toyota corporate put all their eggs into the Democratic Party winning this recent presidential election within the US. So they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and shift gears a lot if they're going to be successful selling within the US market, because they've really gone all in on their green credits and chasing carbon credits and getting government subsidies and handouts for building these smaller displacement motor engines and strapping turbos and battery packs to it, hybridizing everything. They get government handouts, they're green credits, but they're going to get a lot less moving forward for at least the next 4 years, given the fact that a Republican did win and Trump has already expressed interest in hiking up tariffs, hiking up taxation for vehicle manufacturers that are outsourcing production away from Americans for the US market for sale purposes. And honestly, many vehicles that were once marked up with ADMs or addendums are now available at MSRP or less than MSRP. You can absolutely expect to get a great deal right now. This Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392 Final Edition here was going for $10,000, $15,000 over MSRP. The 392s were when they first came out, because dealerships were licking their chops and just taking advantage of the customer. So, flash forward to today, you can now get one of these for $5,000 to $10,000 or even a little bit more than that below MSRP. Oh, how times have changed. Now, we have seen a very notable uptick in GM stock. GM has been receiving a lot more vehicles and selling a lot more vehicles throughout the last 7 to 8 months. People are struggling. Americans are struggling right now just to pay their bills, right? To pay their rent, to pay their mortgage, to pay their insurance, groceries. Everything just costs far too much right now. The main reason why GM stock has continued to go up recently, and they've actually been able to sell and receive allocations, is because, unlike Ford, unlike Toyota, unlike Stellantis, GM still offers base model trims, right? Lesser model trims that are far more affordable for Americans, right? You can go pay $28,000 over there and buy a brand new GM product. Whereas come over to Ford, as I'm showing you all these Expeditions in front of me, many of them are top of the line trims. We're talking limited, platinums. Each of these examples here cost an arm and a leg. Why does Ford do that? Why does Stellantis do that? They do it because the profit margin on these is much higher, as you'd imagine, compared to a base model example like an XL or XLT, right? The profit margins are larger, so they went all in on that, and that is not conducive when the economy is in a tight spot. This right here, we're looking at an Expedition Max Limited. This particular example, over 92 grand. Most families are not going to comfortably buy that right now. Many Americans really have no choice to buy examples like this. The Ford Maverick here, this XLT example here, Lariat, all these examples here are within reach, right? They're between that $30,000 and $40,000 price range. Although maybe not anyone's top pick per se for a pickup truck, at least you can afford to make the payments on it. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the best type of vehicle is a paid-off vehicle. So it's not so cool to have a $100,000 loan out. Sure, you got a beautiful vehicle, but at the end of the day, the bank owns it. So vehicles like this Ford Ranger and that Ford Maverick over there, actually paying for it and buying it, there's a lot more pride in that. Now, unlike Toyota and unlike Ford, GM has gotten pretty used to dropping their prices drastically. It has never been too uncommon to go to a GM dealership, a Chevy dealership, and get $8,000 to $10,000 off the vehicle you're buying. That was during the pandemic, pre-pandemic. That's pretty common. It always has been. So right now, seeing Toyota and Ford needing to drop their prices $8,000 to $12,000 off of MSRP, that's kind of uncharted territory for them, and they are struggling because of it. GM, just another day at work. Let's face it, the state of the economy right now is making it extremely difficult for dealerships to get customers, right? People just cannot afford to buy a vehicle right now. You know, they're more focused on paying their bills before going out and paying $85,000 to $90,000 for a brand new pickup truck, right? This is a luxury for people right now. So it's very easy for anybody to walk into a GMC dealership or a Chevy dealership, pick up one of these GMC Sierras or a Chevy Silverado and get $10,000 to $15,000 off. That's pretty common. It always has been common, but GM has always kind of built in a buffer into their price tags, right? Whereas historically speaking, for Toyota in particular, selling just a couple grand below MSRP has allowed Toyotas to sustain excellent residual values, right? The resale values on Toyotas has always been exceptional, but not anymore. And I can tell you from personal experience with my recent 2024 Toyota Sequoia TRD Pro, that thing plummeted $12,000 in price just after driving it off the lot and putting a few thousand miles on it. That's pretty unheard of for a Toyota Sequoia, especially a TRD Pro trimmed example. But like I said, the new generations of Toyotas are now kind of living up to the reputation of GM in domestic vehicles and being throwaway vehicles in many regards, for lack of better terms, right? People who buy a domestic vehicle generally buy them, drive them for 3 to 5 years, and then replace them. That's pretty typical. Whereas Toyota, people would drive them for 10, 15 years sometimes and not lose that much value because they're very reliable and they had great resale value ultimately. Not anymore. You know, I kind of find it a little refreshing because there's always generally just a few GMC Canyon AT4 and AT4Xs sitting on a lot. There's never a whole lineup of, a dozen or more just sitting there. Like we saw at the Toyota dealership with the Tacoma in particular. They're always just sitting collecting dust. Because I think a lot of people actually feel like you get more bang for your buck when you come over here to GMC and buy one of these mid-size pickup trucks. Because these, for what you get, it just feels better for some reason. And guys, remember, I am a Toyota enthusiast, if you can believe it or not. But for me, buying one of these feels more appropriate than spending that same amount of money for that Tacoma over there. You tell me. Dealerships are really going to be finding themselves in a pickle and very soon if they don't already. Like I mentioned, so many of them are losing money month to month. Something has got to give, otherwise they will find themselves filing for bankruptcy. They will go out of business. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So, like I said before, they have to do one of two things, right? Well, one thing at this point, and that's cut their losses. And they need to cut those losses early and just accept it. Because by cutting their losses, giving out excellent deals, they're moving their inventory, they're getting away from that flooring cost, and heaven forbid, they develop some loyal customers again. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? So Chevy is still offering vehicles like this, right? We have these Trailblazers here that are still affordable. Americans can come out here and still buy a brand new vehicle that comes with a nice factory warranty and actually drive it with a level of peace of mind. So this one here looks like the nicest, the best looking one. Let's see how much they want for it. And even this one, guys, even this one is under $30,000. Sorry, the camera's getting wonky, but under 30 grand for this particular example. This one's an RS. But still, this is affordable, right? And this is what Americans need right now. They don't need the wildly expensive examples and wildly expensive trims. This right here is why GM is seeing an uptick in their stock. And just for context, this is an LT trim, so a little bit more of a base model example, and it is $26,000. And I'm sure you can still work a little bit of a discount on it and get it closer to $24,000. So honestly, tell me, what do you think we need to see from dealerships right now? Are we talking a 25% off discount, 30% off discount? What is it truly going to take for you to go to your local dealership, no matter what the auto manufacturer is, and actually go buy a vehicle? What are you needing to see? Is it a 0% interest rate and 15 grand off? What are we talking? And if you're the type to put preferred pronouns in your signature block at work, you may like this too. Check this out, this EV Silverado. How about that? And what a bargain, just $96,495. I think a part of it is GM dealerships, GMC, Chevy, they've been through this before, right? This is uncharted territory for Toyota in particular, but GM, they're kind of used to having inventory kind of sit for a while and doing whatever it takes to sell that inventory. So this is not new grounds for them, and well, that's why we're seeing them succeed in a time like this, because they're doing whatever it takes to actually earn your business. So I applaud GM for that. So I'll wrap up the video there, guys. As always, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to tune into these videos. If you find any kind of value in it at all, I do respectfully request that you consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot, and it certainly does not go unnoticed. Until next time.